This is Tony Broome Ministries with another devotional message from God's Anointed Word. Hebrews chapter 12 verses 1 and 2 gives us the guaranteed plan for making it from here all the way to glory. The title of the message is Guaranteed to Make It.
We had this thing back in the 60s and 70s, the CB craze was out. Everybody was 10-4 for sure, side door, and everybody wanted to be on the CB radio. And they talked to me and they got me on the CB radio, and I would say something and I'd say, I guarantee it, and I guarantee it. One old timer said, this old whippersnapper that's done got on the radio now, he gives us more guarantees than I've ever heard in my life. You always had the guarantee from Sears and Roebuck, or guarantee from wherever you buy your appliances from. They don't have too many of those anymore because they know they're not going to last too much longer than what you get out of the store. So they don't give you much of a guarantee. We're talking about a guarantee today, guaranteed to make it. More than anything in my life, I've just got to make it. Hebrews chapter 12 verses 1 and 2 tells us the guaranteed plan for making it in this life and all the way to heaven. We have a guaranteed plan. And we're talking about three things here: laying aside, leg or run the race with patience, and look to Jesus. So we should lay aside every weight of sin. Lay aside that which is holding us down and holding us back. We have to lay it aside. We are to run with patience, to leg it. You used to hear people say that, leg it, boy, leg it. Speed on down here, run with patience. Well, you say, I can't run anymore, I can't hardly walk. But you can run the race with patience. You can run the race, the Christian race. You don't have to be able to walk physically to run this race. Run with patience the race that is set before us. And we're keeping in mind all that great crowd of witnesses, those who have gone before us, those who have already blazed the trail, those who have already made it home. We're keeping in mind those witnesses, those great cloud of witnesses who have gone before us, and we look unto Jesus, who is our prime example of help and encouragement. Jesus is the one that we look to because He is the only one who will really never let us down. Amen. Everybody else in the world will let you down, but when you look to Jesus, He will never let you down. He's always there for you. And in Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 and 2, we refer to this verse, but we're going to read it now. And it says, wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us. And let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before Him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. He is our example, and so we look to Him. And we can look to Him, but we also need to lay aside these weights. One of the things that you have to be in shape for if you're in the military, I don't see how in the world, it's not just fighting, not just combat, but they have to be in shape to carry all this gear around with them. 300 pounds of gear. I said, if you tote all that stuff around, it's a wonder if you'd not be able to fight at all, because you have to carry all this stuff around. You have to be in good shape to be able to carry all this around. But in the Christian life, you don't have to carry a lot of stuff around. You don't need a lot of stuff to carry around, because the more stuff that you have to carry around, the more you'll be weighted down. And He tells us, don't worry about all this stuff that you have to carry around. Lay aside those weights that will weight you down, cause you to be pressed down. That's what oppression is. It's weights that are just pressing down and pushing down on you. There are troubles and trials in life that push down on us, and there's loss of loved ones that push down on us, and there's an economic system that pushes down on us, and the political system, my goodness, that'll push you way down. And there are all kind of things in this world that push down on us, and we're to lay aside those weights. Well, how do you do that? You stay in the Word. You stay encouraged. You stay in good Christian music. Don't turn on that beer, tear music. Don't turn on that heartache and heartbreak music. Don't get in those things where you just look at TV and you look at old episodes and you have old memories. No, you don't have to live in those old past. And it's not I love Lucy all the time and I love Andy Griffin and I love all this. No, you can live today. Today, this is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. He endured the shame and the suffering of the cross for us. And He had the joy that was set before Him, part of which was our salvation. But we have this weight of sin that we have to do away with, because sin will weigh you down. You have weights in this life that you can't really help these things that are happening out here in the world. You can't control what the world does. You can't control what this community does. Now, you can help the situation sometime. But if we had control of what's going on in our community, I guarantee that things would be different and would be a whole lot better if we had our say about it. But we can't control it. We cannot stop people from doing what they do, and they're going to do what they do anyway. You can't control what happens in Raleigh. You can't control what happens in Washington. You cannot control what happens in London and Moscow and Korea and all these places. We cannot control that, but we can lay aside the weights on us. We can get out from under that load of the devil that tries to put on us. The enemy tries to weigh us down, and we can just get out from that thing. You remember what happened to King David? He wasn't king yet. He was anointed, but he hadn't taken the office yet. But this big Goliath was out there. And nobody wanted to face Goliath. Everybody was scared of him. But David said, I'll go fight this old uncircumcised Philistine. And Saul said, okay, I'll give you my sword and my, armor? The armor they put on. And it always amused me why Saul would give him his armor and he'd give him his sword. But why didn't he take it himself? He wanted to give it to a little shepherd boy. Let him get out there and get killed. Now, I don't care, but I don't have to face him myself. Why didn't Saul, the big, tall man he was, why didn't he get out there and face Goliath? Nobody wanted to face Goliath. So David put on the armor and he put on the sword and all that, and all is too clunky. He said, I can't use this. I got to go with what I know. And he got him those 5 stones, and he went out there and he whipped old Goliath. It didn't take but one rock. The Chuck Wagon Gang sung, David flung the rock and God did the rest. That's what it was. It didn't take but one. He had 4 just in case he needed him. His brothers had come to help him out. He had them taken care of too, you know. Well, that's the weight. David had to get off that weight. He didn't need all that stuff. And we don't need all this stuff to take off the weight. And the sin that does so easily beset us, that sin that just keeps tripping us up and keeps messing us up. And we say we're not going to gossip about anybody anymore. We say we're not going to run our mouth about anybody anymore. And we do a pretty good job of it. We don't talk about anybody anymore unless somebody calls on the phone or unless somebody says something. Yeah, anybody can do good. I won't talk about anybody anymore. I get in a room by myself and I'm not going to talk about anybody anymore because there's nobody there to listen to. But as quick as somebody says something, we jump on that wagon. And we always say something like, well, you know I shouldn't say this, but, and then that's where our problem comes in. That's where the trouble starts. But we need to lay aside that weight and the sin that does so easily beset us. We have these witnesses that are pulling for us. Now, I do not believe, brothers and sisters, that we have a bunch of people up in heaven. They're watching us. They're watching every move you make. They're not watching us. They got a whole lot better stuff to do than watch what we're doing. If they were in heaven watching us, they'd be worried to death because we'd be worrying them to death. And there's no death in heaven. Everything is life up there. So they're not in heaven worrying about what we're doing. They're in heaven praising God. They're worshiping Jesus. They have a whole lot more to do than to worry about what we're doing. But I do believe that the good things that happen, I do believe the Scripture says that when a sinner repents, when someone gets right with God, the angels rejoice in heaven. There's joy in the presence of the angels of God in heaven. And they know somehow the good things. They know when we get right with God. They know when we do what's right. And they have joy in that. There are those that have already gone on before us, and they're pulling for us. They're rooting for us, if you will. They want us to make it. More than anything in our life, we've got to make it. And the sin that does easily beset us, we do away with it. We get rid of it. And we look to Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. He not only finished it, but He started it. The author of our faith, the finisher of our faith. We look to Him when everything else fails us. And you think the preacher's a good old boy. Then you come to find out he's just using you for what he can get out of you. Oh my goodness. And you think somebody in the church, my friend, yeah, they're your friend as long as you go tooting their horn and go along with what they say. They're your friend. Oh, this good college up here, they love me. Yeah, they love you as long as you tooting their horn and send them a whole bunch of money. Oh, they love you to death. But we've got to love each other no matter what, whether we get money out of people or not, whether people give us a good compliment or not. Jesus came to a world of sin and woe, and He loved us no matter what. He loved us no matter how we treated Him. And He loved us because He cared about us, not just because what He could get out of us. Because He didn't have anything in us. There was nothing in us that we could give Him. He didn't come to this world so that He could get something out of us. He came to this world so He could put something in us. That's why He came. He saw good in us, yes, but it was the good of our soul, the good of our spirit. And He created us in His image, and He came to a world to save us, to make something good out of us. We had nothing good in ourselves, but He came for the joy that was set before Him. We look to Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before Him endured the cross. He didn't like the cross. He didn't like the suffering. He didn't like the shame. He didn't like all that agony, but He endured the cross. He endured it because He had joy. What was the joy? To know that one day you and I would be in a place like this. We'd be right with God. We'd be loving God. We'd be saved. And we'd have Jesus in our heart. That's the joy that He saw. He saw somehow that old blind boy, that old beggar would come aside and be saved and get right with God and have something in their life, that they would be called into the ministry, that they would be lifted up. And He saw you where you were, and He saw you when He was on the cross. You were on His mind, and He saw you. The joy that was set before Him was He knew that you would be saved. He knew that you'd get right with God, and that's the joy that He had. He has joy, and for the joy that was set before Him, He endured the cross, despising the shame. And it says that He is now set down at the right hand of the throne of God. He made it all the way. He never turned back. He never gave up. He made it all the way home. And that's what you and I have to do. We have to make it all the way home. We cannot get discouraged. We cannot shut up. We cannot give up. We cannot quit till we be taken up. That's the only way that we can do. We have to keep on keeping on. We cannot be disappointed just because the preacher disappoints you, just because the church disappoints you, just because a friend may disappoint you, just because your family may disappoint you. They don't come and see you when you think they ought to, but it's not them. You're trusting in the living God, the one who is there with you, who will never leave you, who will never forsake you. And you have a guaranteed plan to make it. You lay aside the weight and the sin. You keep on running that race with patience, and you look unto Jesus. He'll never fail you. You have a guaranteed plan to make it all the way home.
This devotional message has been presented from God's anointed word to encourage you to keep on keeping on. Make Jesus Christ your Lord and Savior. The title of the message has been Guaranteed to Make It. This has been a production of Tony Broome Ministries.